Ugh. Had a rough night. Summer sausage is killing me, dude. My heartburn, GERD, or whatever, it is flared up. Ooh. Can't get much sleep again. I haven't done a Monsters Musings in a while, so I'm going to do one. My guys have encountered a new breed of orc, the Death Fist. Now, I remember people referring to Death Fist over the years in AD&D, and now I don't remember which came first. World of Warcraft Death Fist, EverQuest Death Fist Orcs, or AD&D Death Fist Orcs. Or did they just rename Black Orc into the Death Fist for reasons so people don't get upset? They come from the Underdark, dude, and instead of being translucent or albino, we just made everything match the darkness of the caves. Partial lack of understanding of how evolutional development works, and partial, it just made sense at the time, Torchlight, if he's black, he blends into the wall. But whatever. They're bigger, meaner orcs. And I was actually particularly worried that my guys would get romped. And they did not. They were the rompers. They are the romper stompers. But they're 8 foot tall orcs, dude. They start at 3-hit die. They don't have the +1 like a bugbear, but they're just as tough as a bugbear. And almost as militant as Hobgoblin. One of my personal favorites. So the Death Fist Orc is organized, mean, and strong. They have 15 to 18 strength. So you're randomly determining if they have a damage bonus. So they're stronger than most of your regular orcs, chiefs, and others. So right there, and with their preference for big weapons, being 8 foot tall, they allow them use of the great bow, similar to the knoll, or how I run them as Lagomorphs. So at range, they'll just funk you up. Now, they had some little extras that were native to this particular module, but I've seen them referenced in other stuff. I remember doing the camps and EverQuest with the Death Fist Orc, and I'm now tempted to reload it and just grind mindlessly. Although it's the time of year when I want to be on the road more, which probably is going to knock out my Friday game, because I need that travel time to get to a few different states for the weekend. So sucks, but gotta figure out where you want your time invested, right? Okay. So they're standard 8 foot tall, 3-hit die orcs, and they tend to have better AC. So their piecemeal armor is more along the lines of a half plate, AC4 or splint mail. So that right there makes them a bigger challenge. Guards, lieutenants, sergeants are going to be like 4-hit die, and I would guarantee they have 17 or 18 strength, and then all your other dudes are going to be 15, 16, right? I was randomly rolling these strengths in combat, and I'm not giving them plus to hit because they're a monster, but they are getting that bonus to damage. So their THAC0 was locked right at 17, kicks up down to about 16 for the bigger guys. So pretty rough fight. But all the dwarfs in my dwarf campaign are plate mail wearing turtles. So every one of them is 2 down. 2 to -2. That's the range of everybody in the party. There's no squishies. I do use those. We're getting off track. Focus on Death Fist. And the Chiefs are 6-hit die. 6 to 8. So you could have like an 8-hit die King of the Death Fist Orcs, who's a complete monster, okay? They're not as dumb. They're average. So they're not super intelligent, but they're not stupid. And they're not craven like regular orcs. They bully the craven regular orcs to be their fodder. So instead of having goblin fodder in front of orcs, you have orc fodder in front of orcs. There's not really much to say about them, and you get that more of a classic look from the MMOs. So I do think they might have been inspired from MMOs as opposed to being no, we've always had a stronger orc in the deeper darks that was inspired by the Uruk-hai from Tolkien. Let's be honest, Tolkien has heavy inspirations in our game, and across all these little tables we have, the inspiration for these other fantasy series comes from the DM. Right? That's what you're doing. It's what you're doing. Just like the original vision for our country, 50 individual or 13 individual experimentations and representations, sovereign states. You have thousands of individual interpretations and tinkering with the rules in how D&D was envisioned. Now today, people want a bland corporate product, want it all to match, and younger generations simply want everything to be spelled out for them because they lack imagination. Say something being condescending and dickish, I don't care. If you're under 35, you're retarded. If you're under 25, you're a child. You're a kid. Your brain's not fully functioning. That's why I make my stuff all targeted to adults. If you don't like my opinion, that's fine. That's fine. I know I'm a little hard to get along with. But it's a natural progression to just up your orc. Up your orc to a stronger thing, but don't make them too mundane. Don't use them. The most common will be the lower level ones who are just everywhere. They breed fast. They're on the surface. The Death Fists are going to be in your biggest mountains, and they'll be directly competing with dwarves for their territory, right? And they'll be the ones leading the armies that take the territory from the dwarf. They take it, and they keep it. And then they fall to fight it amongst themselves. Unless you're running your AD&D orcs in that lawful evil vein, and you give them a little bit more structure. Because let's be honest, in AD&D they were lawful evil, and in BX and stuff they're creatures of chaos, which makes them chaotic and prone to infighting. But I even think that the chaotic monsters have some order and structure to them. So they're just your new bigger bad. That's just a little tougher to up the challenge. Them being 15 to 18 strength each is a big thing, big rough. The encounters that were lined out in this one, besides where I had them reinforced, were just 2 at a time mainly. The biggest battle was a Dutz. And the party walked at it. I was really surprised. These guys are munchkins at heart, and they know how to stack their bonuses. They want to. The theater of the mind battle sometimes irritates them because they want to form board control like a mini tactical war game simulation, because they played 3E so long that's played it for so long, that's their fallback. And here I'm like, try to be heroic, try to describe extra stuff. Not as much. They're very much two-dimensional tactical fighters. And that's fine. I'm seeing a little more role-playing popping out, and I enjoy that. But the Death Fist Orc is a natural evolution to your orc in your campaign. It should only be down in the deepest, darkest locations of the Underdark, where they're not as easily dominated and destroyed by the more powerful, special ability demi-humans of the Underdark. So, dive into it. And they may have a closer connection to Groomish. So you throw in some orc-specific magic items and stuff, and they're conquerors, so they take and use what they conquer. So that if they find they should have an assortment of weapons from dwarf and elf alike. That when they get them, That's theirs, and they're not dumb enough to go, that's not choppy bit enough. No more jagged edges. They'll recognize that elven sword that took down 3 or 4 of their buddies like butter is probably magic. So they add it to their inventory. Now, they're more likely to have warlocks and shaman in their ranks. Like it's a guarantee. So I forget the exact percentage, but in a large group of them, they're guaranteed to have a shaman and a witch doctor. Maybe more than one of each. Maybe they have acolytes and war chanters of their own. Get creative. What would Groomish bestow upon a Death Fist Orc champion, but besides just martial prowess? Give him like an advisor who encourages him to be more butcherous. He buffs you to be more murderous. Ooh, crush. They, like most orcs, they lean towards choppy weapons, but lots of two-handed weapons. No shields. Less shields, so lots of halberds. Lean back to that polearm formation. Battle axes will be the smallest two-handed weapon they use. And in some cases, with magical items, they will be dual-wielding those with no penalty. But they like the two-handed swords and the big crushy cleavy stuff. So you won't see as many of the spears and stuff like that, which you use in conjunction with a shield. You're seeing more of the big cleavy weapons. And if you're going to make them, like I limit cleaves to fighter martial characters using two-handed weapons, I allow these beasts to cleave as well. So your two-handed weapon and they hit, they're going to cleave once. They're not going to cleave up to their hit die like I would allow a fighter, like a human fighter. But I will allow them to cleave once. And do that with a lot of the more superior martial humanoids. And then they get too little mundane. Make a mutant. Make someone who's a little bit different. Keep your characters on your toe. My players, where they memorize stuff, this was never really put into mainline stuff. Maybe just sprinkled in modules over the years, I remember. Maybe Dragon Magazine. Current ones I'm using were illustrated in a module from Dark Citadel. It was free off of Dragon's Foot by I forget the name. I'll give credit when I deep dive Dark Citadel. Okay, real tough stuff. So Death Fist Orc, meaner, tougher orc, bigger, tougher orc, more like a hobgoblin in mentality, but not so much. So they don't have that stringent military caste. It is still strong, dominate the rest for the will of Grumish. They're still savage, bestial monsters. And when you're role-playing these creatures, make them bestial, make them hateful, evil. I think we downplay that because we don't want to tiptoe on modern sensibilities. But if you're playing savages, play them as savages. You know? We don't see. Perfect example, there were some missing elves, so they found pieces of missing elves. They were getting eaten. They were tortured, beaten, tortured, eaten. That's what they do. All right. Just glossing over that this morning. I hadn't done a monster musings in a while. It's a creature I'm using right now. There are a few more coming up that I need to do for my Dark Citadel game. And then when I get to my unique monsters, I'm going to go over some that I've just changed a little bit. And there's just silly changes that characters love. And the goofier the better sometimes. There's nothing goofy about these guys. They're just big orcs. Later, guys.